is being hampered, and of course is not moving on well, where some people are fighting it. In Ivory Division, the issue is very much pressing, and we hope at the end of the day, the political fights also will be put aside, and the people of Ivory will be moving together as one. But the issue of advocating for more divisions continues to solely make us surfacing, because if you look at the division, indeed it's quite huge. And that is evident where a person from Riki may find it very difficult to move up to Nduparaka, where the headquarters are. This is where they are now calling for creation of more divisions, of course, of Ivory East and Ivory West, and some also advocating for Pajulu to be of its own. And that is where we are still seeing that happening. And how shall we realize this dream of Ivory Division being broken into smaller administrative units? Because this issue all the time continues to feature. And that is where, at the end of the day, I will be also still seeking your opinion on what you think should be done. Should we advocate for Ivory District, as some people are also calling for? Because we have a section of Ivory locals who are advocating for the creation of Ivory District. When the members of parliament were here, we also did see that happening. Ivory demands a district. That is what we did see. The slogan that was also moving on flyers, and some people also putting that on their T-shirts. It was clear that we have a section of the Ivory people who want a district of its own. But how possible is that? How shall we be able to realize this? And others advocating for creation of more divisions. And that is one thing also which we are seeing. This is because they are claiming that services are not reaching them, and indeed it could be true. Just imagine a scenario where you need a letter of administration from the division, and you are required to move from Riki down there up to Nduparaka. I don't know how much money you'll be in position to waste, and that is where they are saying if the division is broken into two, maybe it could be able to solely enhance service delivery in there, and the social services which the people are not getting will be in position to be provided, and this is where we are going to be seeing. But some possibly of the doubt that the creation of these divisions may not stand on their own. Why? Because if you look at the issues of supporting themselves, are they in position to support themselves? And how viable is the division? And this is a division where we still have huge chunks of land, which is a bit unoccupied, but the issues of industrialization and creation of job opportunities is still lacking. And how ready are we for all this? But some of the poor of the view, I was able to interact with one of the councillors yesterday, was saying if Pajulu is created as a division of its own, it will move from also the BAT other areas up to Nduparaka, and that would also really create its own administrative, because if you look at how maybe the area is, the area can actually support itself when it comes to revenue mobilization. First of all, it has those local trading centers which are booming, and that therefore tells us that it can't be in position to support itself, and that is why the people are actually saying these divisions should be created timely. But we are following up on, and last time during Independence Day celebrations, we had the mayor talking about this, that the matter is now being addressed at the top level. All we need to do is now wait and see if this will be actualized. And that is one area which we are still following up on, and we are able to see that also already happening vividly in there. But we are still following up and to see how this will be ending, and that would, at the end of the day, also really improve on the relations between the taxman and the taxpayers. And now talking about the relations between the taxpayers and taxman, we are still seeing now fear among those who are doing illegal business. First of all, the smuggled fuel is what always, when you talk about illegal fuel, it is really very much vivid and clearly seen in Western Sub-region. In most of the parts, you realize that people are selling fuel by the roadside in cans, in bottles, and that tells us of how smuggled fuel is very, very much high in Western Sub-region. But recently we had also an engagement with the Uganda Revenue Authority. I do that they will be returning back in operations after almost a year of being off. Because if you remember the January incidents that happened, where some people lost their lives in Madiokolo, others in Arua here, you will realize that possibly it was really indeed a bad scenario, which also called for Uganda Revenue Authority to put aside the operations. But now we are seeing them returning, and they actually did say that they will be coming also back on the roads to continue with the impounding of the fuel. But the call, of course, has been to the youth to desist from this practice and embrace other alternative sources of livelihoods, and that would also enable them now first of all improve on their activities, and also really, first of all, in doing what we call legal businesses, because illegal businesses have also really done a lot of atrocities. Recently, on Monday this week, I had it was Friday, sorry, I had an opportunity to interact with the resident city commissioner for Rua City, that is Salim Kumakech. He was able to sort of talk about the same matter, that if you need illegal fuel is very bad, giving also an example of what happened in Chigogwa, where people also lost their lives, where there was a fuel tanker which also overturned in there. And what we did see was people dying, and we did see that happening, but we need to avoid such practices. And how can we avoid such? It therefore calls us to also move away from what we are doing. First of all, the legal business. Those who are doing the legal business know we have had scenarios where people have gotten burnt with as a result of also this smuggled fuel. Recently, we had a case in Aivu, in a rural city, where we had also somebody who was able to perish as a result of that. How can we be in position to also avoid such deaths? It means we need to also desist from those practices. First of all, I do understand the business is a bit lucrative, but it is actually dangerous. Not only the government losing revenue, but your life also losing your life. And that would also, at the end of the day, move also really a very bad example in there. And that means we need to also really engage, first of all, in illegal business, because this illegal fuel business has almost run some petrol stations almost closing. We have had scenarios where these people are complaining of losses. Today we have petrol stations that are not doing well, where they have laid off workers. And that is simply because they have been incurring losses. And that means if at all we not also move away from this smuggled fuel, it goes back to the leaders to go back and sensitize the people, most especially the vulnerable youth who are unemployed, who are still looking for survival, because this is a two-way thing. If you look at it, the youth are looking for survival. Most of them are saying they have been staying idle, but this illegal fuel has kept them going. Most of them have also done something for themselves. We have had stories of youth who went to smuggle fuel. They have built houses. Others have done businesses that also, we are saying maybe you need now to move away from that business, as Uganda Revenue Authority is now returning back on road. We need to desist from the practice. Let's move away from that, and that will also enable us at the end of the day spare our lives and also really move away from the practices of running battles with officials from Uganda Revenue Authority, because I do understand that now the tactic is a bit new and it is not also really maybe similar to what we are used to. So let's be serious. Let's move away from this practice. Let's use the government programs, and the government should be able to sort of give us the monies, and other than also really asking us to move away from such practices. This goes to the youth. My fellow youth, let's desist from those practices, but it still goes back to government. The mandate also goes back to government to find alternative sources of livelihood to the people who have been engaging in such practices. Because if at all you're putting them off, we are going to be rendering these people in suffering. And many of them also really could be supporting their families. How do we support them is what really also really government should be able to look into, because if at all we are stopping them without the alternatives of livelihoods, then we are just going to be singing a song. It will just be like a dog listening to radio, or a goat also maybe listening to radio, because the goat will not be able to understand what the person is saying on radio. And that is where we are saying, let's go back and find measures that are a bit applicable. Let's also define realistic measures and encourage the youth to desist from this practice. It goes back to the leaders, because the leaders are mostly heard by the people. It also goes back to clergy during the sermons. Let's also really encourage the youth to desist from this practice, and never know, they might also listen to our advice, and at the end of the day, they will be in position to slowly move away from those practices that are a bit bad. With that, we come to the end of the first half of the first hour. This is the KOKOLIRIKO live show on West Nile TV with me, Farish Majid, where we are live on StarTimes channel 477. On Zuku, we are there on 0073. And of course, the new baby is Azam, where we are moving on to. You could be watching us from there. We say thank you so much. I want to really say we are proud of you. With that, we are going to be taking a short commercial break. Please don't move away as I bounce back shortly with more of the stories coming. My name is Farish Majid.
West Nile TV, lighting up the region.
Jude Bellingham, Vinicius Jr., Lamine Yamal, Antoine Griezmann. La Liga comes to Star Times.
A wild celebration!
The big stars, the tiki-taka football, Real Madrid and Barcelona live in your living room.
Real Madrid, a team of dreams!
Catch all 380 games live and in HD on Sports Premium Channel 259 and Channel 246 starting this August 15th. Subscribe to StarTimes Classic or Smart Bouquet at 36,000 Uganda shillings to enjoy the football experience affordably. StarTimes Football and Limited Passion.
West Nile TV, lighting up the region.
All right, welcome back. I hope you're still having a good breakfast and you could be having breakfast. I want to say nice appetite. And for those of you who are planning to move to work and you're still home wondering whether you should go or you should fast rest, I want to say it's better you move now. Because all in all, usually we say it is the fast bird that catches the fly. So you shouldn't also really miss out on the opportunity of being a fast comer to work. And that would also help at the end of the day, maybe you want to achieve your task, because for you to achieve your task, sometimes it requires time. And that is why we are saying you need also to hurry and move to that workplace early as possible. And that would also, at the end of the day enable you to do those tasks diligently and also without any pressures in there. Because if you do perform your tasks with a lot of pressures, the output is usually also really affected in there. That's why I want to encourage you to move to work now, because it is really running out of time. For you who are still in bed, wondering whether it is still early morning, I want to say it's not early morning. The sun is already up. The cock crow, of course, did go earlier, and that tells us that it's a new day. Then it is high time also you move to also your different housing centers. It could be under the formal and informal sector, under government or under private. Still, we are saying you better move to that workplace that is bringing food on the table. That is also enabling you to also do whatever you are doing just because of that work. Then it's high time you actually move that workplace within this shortest period of time in there, and that is where you will be in position to also achieve what you want to achieve, because living a life without goals is usually not good. I want to encourage all of us to always have a goal of what we want to achieve, and that is also really where at the end of the day we shall be in position to really achieve that possibly in there. Now, leaving that aside, Uganda National Examinations Board, the body that is solely charged with also overseeing the affairs of the examinations in this country, has revealed that 80% of schools have submitted what we call continuous assessments for senior 4 candidates, but the rest have not been submitted, and that means the learners are going to be missing out on the grading system. Now, the senior 4 candidates started with also really writing the examinations, final examination on October 14th. This is under the new curriculum, which we usually call the competence-based. And these are actually the first lot and what we call the first cohort of this also examinations also in there, and they will be writing these examinations until November 8th, and that's also for the lower curriculum. Meanwhile, for those under the old curriculum, the latest date for them to sit the examinations will be November 15th. That is also for the UCE, which is the Uganda Certificate of Education, and this is where they will be also sitting these examinations for the final time. Anybody who fails under this old curriculum will not be in position to already have this opportunity to sit these examinations maybe for the final time. And this is also the first group of the new learners sit for the examination under the new curriculum. And meanwhile, for the old curriculum, it's going to be the last time. Now, data from UNEB shows that 376,620 candidates are sitting for this year's UCE examinations, where 366 are actually sitting for this. Meanwhile, 10,143 candidates are sitting under the transition examinations, and the continuous assessment contributes 20% of the final circle assessments. And in 2020, we did see that government implemented the new lower secondary curriculum to effect, and UNEB also already said the written examinations would account for up to 80%. Other 20% also will be coming from the continuous assessment. And now the board has set October 30th as the deadline for the submission of the continuous assessment marks for the learners. But really, sometimes I ask myself, how is this already being done? What about the learners who are transferred from one school to school A? Maybe from school A to school B. We have seen scenarios where a learner will be transferred from school A to school B. How are the schools going to be assessing? And maybe how are the schools going to be also already enabling the learners get their results at the UNEB level in there? And that is one area which we feel is really a great concern. We must also really be able to really find out. Meanwhile, candidates without project work and continuous assessment scores in any of the subjects offered shall not be graded. That is according to Ms. Jennifer Kalule Musamba, the spokesperson of the board, and who made these remarks while speaking to journalists. And that is one area which I feel at the end of the day is really very much important, and for us to also be able to also look out. Because if you look at the UNEB examinations, right now the senior fours could be finalizing with the examinations. I do also interact with a number of them. Always when I find them on the road, they will tell you I'm remaining with 2 or 3 papers, meaning many of them are actually going to be summarizing with the examinations this week. That will be on Wednesday. Others will be summarizing on Friday, and they will be coming back home with us. But how ready are we as a nation to receive these candidates? This is the question we should be asking ourselves. And our schools, how are we preparing them to move to the world? Because many of them are moving out to the world where life is not as we may think. Because if you look at what's happening today, sometimes we have seen scenarios where people take advantage of these innocent students. Not only the girl child, the boy child is indeed sometimes vulnerable. We have seen violations of the rights of the boy child happening. So I think it's very much important for us to also be able to prepare these learners as they are coming back home. But really the biggest preparation is at the school level, more so as head teachers who have the mandate of presenting their scores. That is the UNEB, because this is where we are going to be seeing the test takers, because I was interacting with one of the examiners who told me that these are not candidates, but rather these are test takers. And I love the word. I hope the test takers will be getting their test marks at the end of the day, where they have been for 4 years. 4 years has not been easy, more so for these ones here who spent almost 5 years, where they also missed out during the COVID-19 pandemic, which also affected them. So I think it's high time now that we also get the right also channels of getting these results in there, and that would at the end of the day enable them get the kind of opportunities that they need in there. Ms. Kalule also revealed that the past 2 weeks of the examination period ended successfully, and that is indeed something which we are seeing also happening across the country. We have had no scenarios of where head teacher A of school A has been arrested, where learners of school A have been caught cheating. The scenarios have not been there, they have not been common. I don't know why this is happening, and is it that maybe the teachers have not also really developed the password for these examinations? Could that be the case? Because we have not had scenarios of rigging, or maybe also malpractice happening at this period. And I really want to say it is the way to go. We need also to encourage our learners to work hard. This is actually the way to go for the schools, and I really want to encourage them now to desist from practices of malpractice. If you look at examination malpractice, we have had scenarios where learners are passed right away from the candidate classes, but the kind of also really work, it is also sometimes alarming, and that tells us also that we need to also move away from practices of rigging. Malpractice is indeed something which we have seen happening all the time with our learners in some of the schools, where we have seen hard scenarios where when results are released, the public hardly trusts the results. Why? Because they think the learners are cheating. So I think this time round we're not going to be judging and doubting these results once they are released early next year, and that will also tell us that indeed this time round people have been working hard. Now also we are seeing that happening as we're counting down for the PLE. We shall be seeing them also sitting the examination very soon, and the senior 6 as well shall also be commencing with the examination. We want to wish them the very best. If at all we have any of them also working. Right now we want to say success in the remaining papers. And to those who are also going to be starting the examination, we want to say we are praying for you. We also really want you to achieve, and therefore you must do your best in these examinations, and that would at the end of the day allow you get the grades that you want. It could be first grade, it could be second grade, but I don't understand under this new curriculum. It's not like ours, where we sat under the old curriculum of first grade, second grade, third grade, fourth grade, grade U. This time round, it is also really something which is similar to what is happening at the university level in there. But we are still following up and to see how this shall be ending at the end of the day. But I really want to inform you that so many stories continue to make rounds at the national level. We were able to solely see on the monitor this morning where NFA official, where we are able to see National Forest Authority, security have apologized. That is to a Busia family torture, that's solely victims. And now the National Forest Authority and security have apologized to residents of Busia district also who were reportedly tortured in West Bungwe in Busitama Forest Reserve. Now the apology came from NFA Eastern Region Sector Manager, that is Ms. Mildred Nafuna, who comes also after the residents of Busitama, Burumbi, Namugondi, and Bungamba sub-counties in Busia district solely have accused NFA officials of torture and gross human rights violations. And that is one thing indeed I want to solely ask the officials, more so those who are charged with the responsibility of taking care of the citizens and also taking care of these entities to also desist from, because in most cases we have seen scenarios where we have had stories of people's rights being violated, and this is simply because by security authorities. And at the end of the day, we have had scenarios where people are subject to abstract suffering. But how ready are we for all this? And how willing are the people also to desist from some of these practices that would engage them in running battles or fights with also security operatives? And that is one area which I feel at the end of the day, if we do not also really heed to, and then we may also really engage in similar activities where we may fall trap of such also the practices, where we may become victims, and which would also at the end of the day put us in danger in there. And that is one area which I wouldn't want to go on with as far as I continue with this matter. But we did see that happening. But this is not only happening in that area. We have had scenarios of security operatives, more so those from the forces, injuring, and that is where at the end of the day we feel that needs not to happen. Now the officer in charge of Busia Central Police Station, Mr. Hakim Mungwana, has apologized to residents, saying that this should not have also been happened, and that is the transfer of the criminal liability is not allowed in police, and we apologize for that. And these are the apologies we did see from the security operatives happening in there. However, Robert Baguma, the head of enforcement at NFA Eastern Region, who represented the National Army, also apologized, saying any acts of torture and harassment of suspects indeed is not allowed in the area. So I think it's really something which we feel shouldn't repeat itself. It has happened, yes, but it shouldn't be continuous. It shouldn't also happen again, because if you look at scenarios where security operatives have, in most cases, injured the locals, you will realize the pain always remains vivid, and the people will continue to hate the security operatives. We have seen these scenarios. I want to say one of the security operatives is alleged to have also killed one of the youths. This is in one of the areas in Central Division, and today people don't want to see officers attached to that particular force. Why? Because they feel these are killers, because they feel this is what is happening at the facilities. So I think it's really high time that these also the forces come back and clean their names in the masses. Why? They need to also train the locals. They need trained officers in handling the locals, because there's no way you're going to be handling a civilian that way. And that is really one call I feel should be able to go to all the security operatives out there, and that would also enable them improve on their working relations with those they serve in there. Mr. Wilbers Anjonga, the LCTC chairman of Chawo Parish in Busitama Sub-County, said the herdsmen were found grazing livestock near the forest reserve, had also been arrested, and others were illegally tortured, and NFA detention also took them, and before also departing also with that specified amounts of money to secure their release, which is indeed a violation. And that's why with this also happening, where receipts also we are seeing also agreements also issued by NFA, where its officials solicited for up to shillings 1 million for the victims to be released in there. But this is one area which I feel at the end of the day should be investigated, the corruption within some of these officials, maybe some of these entities. For instance, NFA, where sometimes where people come up with stories where the charcoal is being pounded and they're being required to pay huge chunks of money. We have had scenarios where people who are dealing in timber have been also disturbed on the roads. How do we deal with all these issues without necessarily taking bribes? Because bribe is indeed a crime, much as what these people are doing is criminal. But soliciting for bribes is also another criminal that we need to, activity that we need to investigate. So I think all in all, that is one area which we feel must also be investigated in there. Now, while Ms. Nafuna said that habitual offenders will be arraigned before Buganda Road Court in Kampala, where an environmental court was also constituted, and she didn't disclose that what was also remanded and those who have been also involved in the said criminal activity. For now, these also officers who have been also apprehended have remained unknown, and we do not know who they are. But investigation indicates that they will be arraigned. That is before Buganda Road Court, where the environmental court sits. And that means if you are committing these crimes in all the parts of the country, you may be transferred to Kampala and also face your charges from there, which may also be costly and which may also be very much challenging on your side in there. Mr. Ernest Bwire, a resident that's of Habuleke Parish in Busitama Sub-County, claimed that same residents had also sold land to secure their release from detention and also from the forest officers, while those who failed to raise the money were taken to Kampala and arraigned before Buganda Road Court. And this is where the investigation should be carried on, because you cannot also allow somebody to also sell their property, to also gain their freedom. And that is where we're saying this is where the corruption also within the entity. I do understand the entity is also at the plan and the verge of also being merged. That is under the Ministry of Environment, because many people also had been rejecting and also talking about this. But we are also looking at it, and we are going to be seeing anytime from now NFA being moved. That is also the Ministry of National that's Environment. And at the end of the day, we hope all this is going to be addressing the concern of corruption, more so, which has been also in the members of the public, where many people had been also talking about that. Mr. Amosia Ogatai, a resident of the same parish, that's Abuleke, said the harassment reportedly manifests its form of torture and lawful detention that is in gazetted places, and extortion, which is currently being also practiced in there. Ms. Mulimba quizzed NFA officials on allegations of gross violation of human rights and then those who are also making by being remanded and transferred from Busitema, and that is where we are calling also for the release of also these people. Now, past instances also happened, and they do understand this is not the very first time a similar case is happening. Meanwhile, on July 18th, 19th of 2018, Moses Oundo was allegedly shot dead in Bungwe West Forest as he also harvested wild yams, according to his family. And in June this year, Mr. Godfrey Wafula, a resident of Wamusi village, that's Bulumbi sub-county, was also said beaten by men in uniform, and that tells us that this is not the very first time we are seeing this happening, and that means we need to also find out why this is happening and how best we can be able to have the trust of this body back. That means this person therefore should be able to find alternative measures of harnessing their working relations, that is with also the locals, because most of these lands where these forest reserves are, we are seeing communities settled along them, and that means if we continue to have this kind of relations, then the community members are going to be also not moving on very well with also those who are charged with the responsibility of taking care of these national reserves also in there. And at the end of the day, the result will be that we are going to be seeing suffering, first of all, of the taxman and also each and everyone out there, and that would also at the end of the day paint a very much also the bad image of the nation also, and all the officers will also will be looked at as killers in there, because each and every time we are talking about a case, at least of an officer who was either shot dead a civilian or has done any activity. Yesterday I was able to talk about a scenario of a UPDF officer who also shot people dead, and today it is also NFA. We never know. Its officers also could have also contributed that in there, and that is one area which we are following up on. And now still looking at what happened in Chigogwa, and earlier on I was talking about the return of URA back on impounding. We did see also that is also to deal with the issues of illegal fuel, numberless motorcycles, and smuggled goods in there. Recently, we are able to also see the fuel also doing its bad in there, where also lost lives. That is in Chigogwa, where the fuel tanker exploded, also killing many people. Now, according to information we're receiving, the death toll has also risen, and I was able to see that one of the persons only was from Arua City, when she was actually laid to rest yesterday. And this is at the main cemetery in there. May also rest in peace. And she was only one person from Western Nile sub-region, and she was buried yesterday. And the death, according to information we received, got her where she was in the saloon, also where she was also working on her hair, planning to go to school. But the unfortunate incident found her in there. Now the death toll also from the fuel tank explosion at Chigogwa town, that's on Kampala Bumbo Road in Wakiso district, has risen to 26 after two people succumbed to injuries in the hospital in there. Now the police said on Monday the two died on Saturday morning evening following the October 2022 explosion, which happened after the fuel tank overturned before it exploded only moments later in there. And residents also just to siphon fuel, which is another practice which we say is very much bad. Now preliminary information from the police shows that the fire was also burned several homes, shops, motorcycles, and started also from a nearby charcoal stove on which maize was being roasted. And that is one thing we did see happening in there, but that tells us that we need to also these practices of siphoning fuel, and in most cases, if it's not cigarette, there is always some source of fire which causes that will also at the end of the day help us. This is from also these avoidable deaths, because I want to call this avoidable deaths, where if at all we not move closer, if at all we move away from, because we had scenarios where the driver had kept on warning the people to also move away from that. As he was running, he asked the people to run away from also that practice of siphoning fuel, but the people never had. Most of those who died at the facility in there, that's where we did the spokesperson, that's also Mr. Chituma, who was speaking to journalists on Monday, revealed that the 22 bodies had been also by Monday morning picked also from the city mortuary, by the families for burial in there. And I want to acknowledge that indeed, yes, one of the persons who died in this incident was actually buried yesterday. This is in Arua City. Now, government handed over the bodies after conducting DNA tests. According to police, the government promised shilling 5 million to the families of the deceased. That is so to help in burial arrangements, and shillings 1 million also for treatment. And also that's one thing this is happening now. Police are still searching for the driver of the fuel tanker, where also he would be hiding. And that means if at all you know this driver, then you can still let police know of who he is and where he is hiding. But really I want to know why police could be maybe looking for this man, because this is an accident. And we have stories and we have rumors that as he was running, he kept on warning, and the people never heard it. So why should we look for this driver? And why should we also bring him to book? Because an accident is an accident. And usually we say an accident is an unexpected sudden happening. And we not also think about it. We also find ourselves just like that, involved into those accidents. And that therefore tells us that why should we maybe look for the driver? And that means at the end of the day, we need to sort of blame ourselves partly. And that is where I really want to ask you, the persons out there, to also avoid the practices of siphoning fuel from these vehicles that are involved in accidents. We have had scenarios where if there's an accident, for run to steal batteries, for run to steal bulbs, for run to steal spare parts. For the fuel tankers, it is worse. People run to also remove fuel from these tanks, and that is already another practice which I must say is really very much wrong, and we must therefore desist from it. But the question is, sometimes I really want to say police response is what is causing actually some of these deaths. If there's an accident that has overturned, let police run to the scene of crime immediately and guard these vehicles and let the people not come closer, and that will also at the end of the day save these lives in there. Now, this is not the first time, and I really did tell you earlier on that this is not the very first time we are seeing scenarios of people dying under these same and similar instances where there is an explosion from the fuel tanks. And on February 14, 2004, 42 people were confirmed dead when there were 23 vehicles, including a commuter taxi, were involved in a collision also in Luanchima in Mabira Forest on the Kampala-Jinja Road. And shortly after the incident, the vehicles caught fire and the victims were burned to death. And on June 30th of 2013, a fuel tanker was hit by a car causing spillage. And thereafter, the fuel tanker exploded. That's Namungona in Kampala suburb, where at least 42 people were also burned to death in there. And how do we learn from these experiences, with the latest being in Chigogwa? So I think it's really quite important for us to also learn from these practices, and that would enable us at the end of the day avoid these deaths, which to me are very much avoidable. And I really want to say, let's learn from those practices. Let's desist from the practices of wanting to get fuel from these tanks when they are involved in accidents. Because let's imagine a scenario, you're a businessman dealing in that business, and then your vehicle overturns, people go away and steal the fuel. What do you think, and how do you think the owner of this fuel tanker is going to be feeling? Let's put ourselves to that. Let's be empathetic about the owners of this fuel. And then the drivers themselves, let's imagine the risks they're encountering as they're moving on these roads, because as these vehicles are moving, there's always a word behind them, danger. That word danger is always there in all the fuel tanks I've seen. I've not seen any of the vehicles transferring fuel without the word danger. But we are seeing danger where we're moving closer to danger. So I think that is where we need to sort of learn from. And therefore, at the end of the day, we will be in position to sort of avoid these deaths that are avoidable. I really wouldn't want to blame anybody. I'm not blaming anybody for the deaths, but I'm saying it is really high time that we learn from those experiences, with what happened in Namungona, with also what happened recently in Chigogwa. At the end of the day, we wouldn't also want to see our people dying these avoidable deaths. With that, we come to the end of the first hour. This is the KOKOLIRIKO live show on West Nile TV channel 477, where we are live on Saturdays. And we also there on Zuku, for those who have the satellite dish, where we are there on channel 0073. And the new baby, of course, is Azam, as we plan to sort of move to the rest of the decoders, where we will be in position to sort of watch us in all as we continue to sort of move on. And our plan is to be on all these platforms where you will be in position to watch us at the comfort of your choice. And remember, for now, we do not have these decoders. You can simply watch us online. That is online, that's on social media, where you can be able to watch us via Facebook, where we are there on X, where we are on TikTok, and still you can be able to watch us via YouTube. All you need to do is have internet and the connection solely to a device that is connected to the internet and search for West Nile Television. At the end of the day, you will be getting the live links to watch us each and every mornings, Mondays to Fridays, 7 o'clock to 9 o'clock. For now, we are taking a short commercial break. When we bounce back, more stories will be unfolding. Stay tuned.
West Nile TV, lighting up the region.
Vinicius Jr., Lamine Yamal, Antoine Griezmann. La Liga comes to Star Times.
A wild celebration!
The big stars, the tiki-taka football, Real Madrid and Barcelona live in your living room.
Real Madrid, a team of dreams!
Catch all 380 games live and in HD on Sports Premium Channel 259 and Channel 246 starting this August 15th. Subscribe to StarTimes Classic or Smart Bouquet at 36,000 Uganda shillings to enjoy the football experience affordably. StarTimes Football and limited passion.
West Nile TV, lighting up the region.
All right, welcome back and hope you are still with us. And this is our second hour of the show. We are just some few minutes after 8 o'clock. And when we talk about the second hour, this is where we are going to be looking at some of the stories happening internationally. I will be summarizing the entire discussions with what's happening also in the world of sport, because work without play usually makes Jack a dull boy. That's the saying, and indeed we do not want to leave you also out of what's happening in the world of sports. I will be letting you know of what's happening in there, and later on we shall be having also the other programs coming after. That is the KOKOLIRIKO live show. Remember, it being a Tuesday, we shall be having the Elders and News Bulletin coming shortly. That's with Fete Manuel. Thereafter, we shall be also having the Northern Request Hour with Olivia UG together with DJ Jero. Thereafter, other programs still will be planning and also will be coming as planned in there, and all that is make sure that you are covered in all parts of also the spheres of life in there. And really, that's on a sad note. Also, as we begin of our second hour, I do understand Arua district lost recently one of the prominent leaders who actually represented the region also, that's also the 8th parliament in there. And as a member of parliament, now the Ugandan politician, trained nurse and community worker in the names of Angufiru Margaret died a few days ago, and she will also be buried. And today, I do understand that today we shall be having a special council sitting by the councillors of Ivory Division, that is in honor of this late, who represent the Ivory County also in also the 8th parliament as an parliament in there. And remember, that was in a road district, as then as an independent candidate also in there, she was able to also rule also and serve the of the district, and that is where today she will be honored, and she will also therefore also be honored by the councillors in there. And that's one area which we are going to be following up on and see how this also will be ending in there. And yesterday I was able to hear sad stories about the demise and the burial of the father of one of the musicians who has raised West Nile flag so high. That is Jackie Chandiru, which was in Maracha, and we also did see that happening, and we are still praying for all those who lost their dear ones within this period also to have eternal peace. And that is one area which I wouldn't also want to skip out and also keep you reminded of, but we are still following up on and see, because usually the saying is, it is God that gives and takes. So if these people go to maybe God, they are going to be also resting with him and with the angels in there. And all we can do now is offer prayers, and that is one area which I feel is really quite important for us to also be able to talk about. And now talking about Karuma, many people had been also talking about the Karuma. Today the road to Karuma, to Kampala via Karuma has actually been closed, and that was for a 3-month period. And now we have seen a team of engineers recently went to inspect the project, and we were able to slowly see the works taking place. It means the construction work also is moving on very much well in there, where the workers are actually doing what it takes to also make sure that this work is renovated. And then now engineers overseeing the construction of the Karuma Bridge in northern Uganda have also confirmed that 36% of the work is complete, offering renewed hope, optimism for travelers in the region. And that's where we are now seeing now the bridge, which was closed in August of 2024 for extensive repairs, is expected to be fully operational by December 20th, a deadline also that government officials and affected communities are eagerly waiting to solely see in there, because if you look at the Karuma Bridge, many people are not happy about the closure, but now we are seeing at least a development also happening. We expect one thing to be done in there. The stipulated period must be observed, and I wouldn't want to see extensions of this project further happening in there, because in most government projects, we have in most cases seen extensions, but this time around I hope there wouldn't be any more extensions taking place in that. Now, during inspection at the weekend, State Minister for Works and Transport Musa Cheru expressed satisfaction with the progress, but stressed the importance of maintaining the schedule. And Cheru's also remarks highlight the urgency felt by the thousands of also the travelers who have also been forced to use alternative routes. That is through Park, that's Pakwach, Masindi, and also Wanseko, Bulisa, significantly lengthening the journeys. That's where we are seeing today many of the travelers also raising concern that the journeys to Kampala and other parts have actually become longer as a result of the closure of the Karuma Bridge for the rehabilitation. And now the bridge's closure was to suppose the major travel disruptions, particularly for larger vehicles which have also already been passing through Merchant Falls Park, while similar vehicles have been directed to pass via the Masindi Park. And now, despite these detours, a trail will acknowledge that the inconvenience caused by longer travel times will also be addressed in there. But now that is one thing also which we are following up on, and the construction work is being handled by China Railway 7th Group in collaboration with National Enterprise Corporation, with efforts also focused on maintaining both speed and quality in there. Now, in addition to Karuma Bridge project, Musa Ichweru Minister highlighted the ongoing efforts to preserve other key infrastructure, and he revealed also that an amphibious excavator is being used also to remove invasive vegetation from Pakwach Bridge towards Crucial Mesa to ensure safe passage for travelers, and that is one area which we feel is really quite good. And all that is to improve on water transport. I want to say, if at all as government, we embarked on, first of all, developing the water transport infrastructure that would enable us also to improve on movement of goods and services. Now the government is also exploring opportunities to secure investors for a modern multi-purpose bridge that is at Karuma, which also would improve trade and transportation also efficiency in northern Uganda as work progresses so steadily. The December 20th deadline remains a symbol of hope for many, representing also the return to normal travel and increased connectivity that is across the region, where those who are moving to Lango sub-region, those who are moving to Acholi, those who are moving to West Nile will be having this hope of the development of the Karuma Bridge, which has actually been a connection hub to the people of northern Uganda, because there's no way you're going to be passing through Karuma and you think you're not entering northern Uganda, and that is where we are going to be also seeing that happening. And at the end of the day, we want to see this happening, and we shall be able to also see how this will be in position to also be addressed. Because if at all the issues of Karuma Bridge continue to surface and we are silent about it, then we may not be in position to solely see the development of all the strategies happening, and that would also tell us that indeed the people are not also utilizing it. We have seen many of our leaders also in most cases advocating for this, but we are still seeing that happening. And the last time we had also our leaders being brought together was when people were allowed to pay money to pass via the national park, which of course the government waived off after several complaints by a section of legislators from the West Nile sub-region. And that is one area which we are following up on, and we want to see how best this bridge will also be constructed, because we have had scenarios where people have also plunged the river after losing control, where we have had people also dying as a result also of accidents on this road. But now we expect stronger gatherings, where if at all there's any vehicle that loses maybe control, they don't plunge in the water, because initially this bridge was a bit weak, which also made many people lose their lives. Buses are falling in there, trailers are falling in there, small vehicles have as well been also said to have fallen in that water. And how best, maybe should government also work on this? I only want to ask government now to put the guardrails of this bridge a bit stronger, to make sure that no deaths also now occur on this road in there. And that's where we're going to be leaving discussion aside. MPs Biraro Mujicha clash over illegal constituency entry. This is another story that we're seeing in the paper this morning, where in a heated confrontation, Buweju West Member Parliament Ephraim Biraro clashed with Buweju County MP, that's Francis Mwejuche, over Mwejuche's presence, that is in Biraro's constituency, allegedly without permission. Now the dispute also centers around a long-standing conflict over land belonging to Ruanyambara Catholic Church, where Mwejuche was attacked by armed men during a mediation meeting earlier this year. In now Biraro accusing Mwejuche of encroaching on his constituency without consent, suggesting that the visit was politically motivated. And how do we see all that happening? How do you enter somebody's maybe area of jurisdiction without their notice, without their consent? And this is where maybe the clash is arising from. But I want to assure you that Mwejuche, however, asserts that his role was purely in pursuit of justice, as he was addressing a land wrangle involving also really Runyabare Catholic Church and the local resident also, that's in the names of Kamugisha Frank. And Biraro accuses Mwejuche of encroaching on his constituency without consent, suggests that this was also really a politically motivated move. And the conflict also began on 12th of May, when Mwejuche and members of the Runyabare Church were attacked by machete-wielding men after a meeting intended to resolve a dispute between the church and the family of Burimbare. Now the violent altercation left Mujicho and others injured, prompting local authorities to temporarily close the church, the school, and access roads in the area. We are all closed in there. Now the district security team, led by the Buweju RDC, that is Pulkeria Muhindo, has since reopened the church and the school, reassuring the community of police presence to prevent further violence from taking place in the area. However, we did see also many Christians found church infrastructure vandalized and also demanded accountability from the local police on what could have also been able to cause that in there. However, many Christians already found that, and we are also able to thank the officials for also intervening in there. Now we did see MP Biraro voiced frustration over Muijuche's actions, accusing him of attempting to undermine his to undermine him politically by stampeding into other territories. And Biraro Fada also said that out of the courtesy, one should inform the other, and threatened to escalate the matter to Speaker of Parliament for guidance in there. Now, in response, Mujiche dismissed Biraro's claims and also the accused of calling him an injustice crusader, and appealed also for intervention from the Minister of Lands to resolve the church and also dispute before tensions escalate further in there. And that is what we did see happening. Now the clash highlights also the deep-seated tensions surrounding the land conflicts in the region, as well as the other challenges also faced by MPs navigating overlapping territorial and the communal responsibilities. And that is what exactly we did see happening in there. That's also where we did see the clash between the two members of parliament of the same district but of different constituencies. So I think it's really quite important for us also to be looking at that before you enter into another person's territory. Inform them. I feel that is also really quite important, and that would at the end of the day avoid clashes that is between the people also in this also leadership. And that is one area which I really want to say is quite important also really for us to be advocating for as we get move on with the stories also happening across the country. And that would also tell us what that would also be able to tell us. Now, former MP Bitangaro charged with shillings 1.3 billion cooperative fraud is another story we are seeing where the anti-corruption court has charged former Bufumbiro South County Member of Parliament, that is Sam Butangira, along with others for conspiring to defraud, that is Chiboga Twegate Cooperative Circle Limited, of more than shillings 1.3 billion Ugandan shillings. Now the group also appeared before Chief Magistrate, that is Joanne Achiro, to face the charges. And those charged alongside Bitangaro include us lawyer John Francis Onyango, or we do have Stella Kakuba. We have a resident of Ntinda Minister's Village, that's in Kampala, and a civil servant in the names of William Tumwine, who all reside also in the same address, that's as Kakuba. In that, our prosecutors allege that also on May 21st of 2014, Bitangaro also obtained shillings 1.326 billion from also Chiboga Twegate Cooperative Society Limited under false pretense, and that they also held also marketable title for property located in single block 3098, plot 122, measuring that is an hectare of about 492.03, and that is where we are now seeing them also really facing the challenges and also the charges of alleged also really fraud in there. But we are still following up on this matter. How also do you engage yourself as a person of integrity? Because imagine somebody being called a honorable member, and then you are also subjected to that kind of trial. It's really quite embarrassing, because in all, the title honorable does not die. Even if you are a honorable member, former MP, you still remain with the title. Even if you're a former minister, you still remember that title. That title does not die. The word title, honorable, is one thing you hold for life. And it's really indeed something which I must say is of respect. So we must learn to respect ourselves also once we also are bestowed with those opportunities of being called honorables. Because if at all now an ex-MP is sentenced to jail, it's really something which I must say is quite embarrassing, just for fraud. And that is one area which I feel is very, very much bad. And now Stella Kakuba, who is also charged alongside with the former MPs, accused of obtaining shillings 1.674 billion from the cooperatives already on May 29th of 2014 at Onyango's law office, that is in Bunga in Kampala, by falsely claiming to also have marketable title of land located, that's in Gomba block 364, Meanwhile, also that's also where we did see also that land measuring up that area. Now warrants of arrest also we had previously been issued against Vitarangaro, but these were later cancelled due to reports of his ill health. And he surrendered to court. According to his lawyer, that is Geoffrey Turiamusima, who successfully applied for bail, and the case had been adjourned at November 26th of 2024 in there. And that is one area which we are still following up on. For now, they are still suspects. And how do we also really see a member of parliament also being charged and also being maybe tried for corruption? I really want to say that is very much about, because fraud is really something which we must always desist from, and we must therefore learn from that. And that is where we shall be also be able to learn from that. And at the end of the day, that is where we shall be able to solely see that ending. And that is one area which we feel is really quite important for us to solely be able to advocate for and be in position to solely learn from that. Meanwhile, in Teso, the Teso people are mourning the passing of Bishop John Eitu of Global Harvest Church. And that is really another sad story that we are seeing in the heartfelt also the announcements shared on social media. The Global Harvest Church Sorority confirmed the passing on of Bishop John Eitu, a reverend also a spiritual leader, on October 27th. And that is one area which we are still seeing in there. Now he passed away early on Sunday morning. That is at Mulago Hospital's intensive care unit, where he had been receiving treatment. And that's according to information we did receive from the widow of also the pastor in there, in the names of Agnes Eitu. And he was at the age of 86 by the time of his death. And Bishop Eitu, known for his unwavering dedication to uplifting communities, was more than a religious leader, and he was a counselor, also a mentor, and a visionary committed to fostering peace, unity, and development of the people of Teso. And this is in the area of sorority and across the Teso sub-region. And that is one area also which we feel people must also be able to learn from. And at the end of the day, that is where we are going to be mourning with the families and the people of Teso sub-region. And that goes back to the rest of the clergy. How shall you be remembered by the time you're gone? Is the question we should be able to ask ourselves each and every mornings. How do you want to remember? How do you want to be remembered by the time you're gone? Because there's no way we're going to be in this earth for life. How are you using that position God gave you? How are you using it? Are you using it in the right way? Are you using it to touch others? Are you using it to also take advantage of the rest? Are you using it to exploit money from most of those people? Are you establishing these churches to also serve the people? Are you making changes? Are you impacting positively on the livelihoods of the people? These are things that you should be able to solely check on yourselves as a leader, more so as somebody who is bestowed with powers of serving spiritually, because serving spiritually is not what everybody can do, because not everybody has the powers. But if at all God gives that opportunity of leading congregations, of leading masses, each and every time where you are preaching, you are commanding a congregation, people are listening to you. So I think it's really very much important for us to solely use these powers very well. And that is where at the end of the day, we shall be in position to also move improve on our lives. And that is also where we're going to be supporting government. First of all, in service delivery, because if at all we're not also doing that very well, then the government works also are going to be affected. And at the end of the day, we are going to be seeing people still moving in a way that is not rightly. So I think it's quite important for us as locals, as leaders, to also really learn from that. And that would enable us also really improve on our livelihoods. And that is where we're going to be leaving that discussion aside and still looking at some of the stories happening elsewhere. I want to show you that so many things going to make rounds, and that is across the borders in there. But I will be touching that in the evening of the show. That is towards the end of the show. I will be touching some of the international stories, and not forgetting what continues to make rounds in the world of sport. Because sports is really one of the activities that today, when you talk about, it is actually one of those big activities that is bringing money to the government. So it is not just a sport for leisure, but today sport is business. So I think it's really very much important for us to be touching that. And I will be touching that later on as we get to move on with the show. And I will be heading to Kenya to also really see what's happening in there, because there's a development in there. Remember recently we had also really the Kenyans also impeaching, that's the deputy president. I will be touching there later on. I will be letting you know what's happening in Kenya in there. But still, allow me also keep on with what's happening nationally. This is sort of across the country in there, in different parts of the country. We started by stories from Western sub-region, and I will be ending with international stories and sports in there. But still, looking at some of the stories happening at the national level, I want to assure you that so many things continue to make rounds, and all that is already happening at the country level in there. But how do we deal with all these stories? And that's where we did see Barrio Munsi, the Minister for ICT, calling also the Buganda's coffee claims misleading, and the Minister for ICT and National Guidance, that's Dr. Chris Barrio Munsi, has criticized remarks made by the Katikiro, that's the Prime Minister of Buganda Kingdom, that's Charles Peter Maiga, regarding also the government interventions in the coffee sector. Now responding to Maiga's statement that suggested that any government interference associated with coffee would impact Buganda directly, Barrio Munsi called that the commentary was misguided, and that's where we did see the exchange centers on recent discussions about Uganda's coffee trade, a vital sector that significantly contributes to the country's economy. And today when we talk about coffee, one of the bodies that also really has been undertaking and also overseeing that coffee is also really being processed in this country has been Uganda Coffee Development Agency, which is abbreviated as UCDA, which was recently planned to be moved and merged under Ministry of Agriculture. But today we did see a number of members of parliament also rejecting that. Recently I was able to see a plenary also where we were able to see a number of legislators, most especially those in the opposition, rejecting the merger of UCDA, and today the merger is also returning. And I do understand that some of the bodies are going to be moved, that's the mother bodies, but UCDA by that time also survived. And we are still following up on and to see how best we can see the operations of this body in there. Now, the Buganda has historically been a major player in Uganda's coffee production, and Maiga's comments also really reflect concerns from farmers and stakeholders within Buganda who worry that also the government policies could also really harm local production of coffee in there. And at the end of the day, that is where we are seeing those controversies coming. Now, the tensions between the government and the Buganda Kingdom highlights the complex balance between the national policy and local interest, particularly also within Buganda, which is deeply rooted in coffee production. And Barrio Munsi, the minister, urged stakeholders to view government reforms as beneficial to Uganda's economy as a whole, rather than also a threat to specific regions. Now, the debate also continues to draw attention as Ugandan leaders work to find common ground on how to best support the coffee production in there. And that is one area which I feel we should be able to certainly run from, because if you talk about the issues of coffee production, many of the farmers in Buganda today are in coffee production. Many of the farmers have actually earned money. Unlike Western Sub-region, where we do not have any particular crop or cash crop that we are known to, Buganda is actually an area known for one, matoke, and then coffee. Each and everywhere you move in Buganda sub-region, at least you will see all the homesteads having a banana plantation, at least a plantation, if not many, but at least there is a banana plantation, be it in the city, even in the rural areas. People having the banana gardens. In the rural areas, coffee, what we call mwani, is actually where many of them actually engage into. And that means as Western sub-region, we could be poor just simply because we do not have any activity, any crop that identifies with us. And I really want to say the leaders should now embark on a practice of at least identifying a crop that would identify Western sub-region. I don't understand coffee is actually being fronted, and cocoa is now being fronted, because initially many people thought that cocoa and coffee could not be grown in these areas. But now we are still seeing that happen. We are seeing that also vividly now being explained. Many of the leaders are today engaged in practice and growth of cocoa and coffee. It means the locals also have to as well embrace that. And that would, at the end of the day, maybe identify Western sub-region as an area that is best known for producing certain crops. And that would also, at the end of the day, increase on our markets for those crops, both locally and at the international markets. And I feel that is one area which the leaders must be able to embark on. And today the issues of the merger are still continuing. And recently we did see also a heated debate that is on the merger, on the planned, but that's where we are seeing a planned move, that is to take UCDA under Ministry of Agriculture. We are still following up on, and at the end of the day, we shall be seeing how that will be ending. And many of these people have also been fronting that many of these agencies are actually doing similar activities, and therefore they need to be merged. What do you think about these agencies, and which agency do you think deserves to be merged? We take a short commercial break. This is the KOKOLIRIKO live show, and when we bounce back, we are going to be bouncing also with international stories. and of course what is making rounds in the world of sport. My name is Farish Majid. It's a Tuesday morning. I hope you are having a wonderful time with your families. For you who is having breakfast, I want to say bon appetit. For now, we are taking a short commercial break and we bounce back shortly.
West Nile TV, lighting up the region.
Vinicius Jr., Lamine Yamal, Antoine Griezmann. La Liga comes to Star Times.
A wild celebration!
The big stars, the tiki-taka football, Real Madrid and Barcelona live in your living room.
Real Madrid, a team of dreams!
Catch all 380 games live and in HD on Sports Premium, Channel 259 and Channel 246. Starting this August 15th. Subscribe to StarTimes Classic or Smart Bouquet at 36,000 Uganda shillings to enjoy the football experience affordably. StarTimes Football and Limited Passion.
West Nile TV, lighting up the region.
right, welcome back. We are already into the final minutes of today's discussions. I still hope you are with us and you must be having a good time. And definitely to also have a good time, it deserves you to be accessing information. But on some of the stories we're seeing this morning, we did see Minister for Youth, that is Balaam Atenyi, also calling for community to support the youth in shaping also their activities in there. And we're able to see the State Minister for Youth, that is Balaam Baruhagara, emphasized the importance of community also really supporting shaping the lives of the young people. That is at the 4th National Safe Motherhood Pre-Youth Conference, which was organized by the Ministry of Health and partners. And this event also really demonstrates Uganda's commitment to improving young people's health and mental well-being. And that is one area which we feel must also be given keen attention to. And the event also, and today when you talk about young people, you realize that indeed they are going through a lot. Most of the people who are into drug abuse are the young people, and others already are running mad simply because they feel depressed. Others lose also the hope in life, and that is why we see them also engaging in those practices. And now the conference was under the theme, Strengthening Communities to Improve Adolescent Well-Being, which highlights also the vital community, also role, the vital role that the community plays in supporting adolescents, and the adolescents actually within us, and that is where we must also really encourage them and ask them to also desist from some of those practices. And now Baruhagara stressed the adolescents' need to support for individuals, and communities as well as organizations must also therefore join hands to support also really these adolescents in doing that. Minister Baruhagara expressed gratitude to the Ministry of Health, Development Partners and stakeholders for organizing this symposium, and say that we are stronger together for the good of our adolescents, and that is one area which we feel should also really be given keen attention to, because the adolescents are actually those who are going through a lot. And many of the teenagers who are adolescents, today we have seen them also really, first of all, being impregnated, others have impregnated others. Today we have child parents, where the father is a child, the mother is a child, and the child is a child. So I think it's really quite time that we also really empower these people with also really that knowledge. It goes back to the communities also really to also ask them to also really move on with that kind of life also in there. That's where we're going to be leaving that discussion aside and still looking at some of the stories happening elsewhere, and that is where we wouldn't also want to continue with the discussion as we are running out of time. And Museveni did condemn also government scientists as traitors for early retirements. And today when we talk about scientists, we have the teachers who are also earning 4 million, and many of them are said to be returning early and engaged in those other practices. And now the Ugandan president, that's President Yoweri Museveni, has strongly also condemned government scientists and the plans to take early retirement following recent salary enhancements. And in a statement already on his social media platform, Museveni expressed disappointment and outrage leading to the scientists as traitors and calling them as traitors. And I fought to improve on that, if I can be able to sort of quote him. And the president did say, I fought to improve your pay so that you can work for your people in your field, not to also really facilitate your disaster and betrayal. And that's what we did see the president already tweeting in there. And if you want to retire, you will go with your old miserable pay, and we shall employ young people also ready to work full term. And that is according to what the president did also issue as a warning to those scientists who have also been retiring early in there. Now, Museveni's remarks suggest frustration with scientists' apparent lack of commitment that's serving the nation, and the president already emphasized that improved competition aimed to motivate scientists to contribute meaningfully, not to abandon their duties, and that is where he expressed frustration with the scientists today who are retiring also earlier in there. Now, the president's stand warning implies consequences for scientists from early retirement, highlighting tensions between the scientific community expectations and government objectives. And today, scientists, mostly science teachers, are said to be retiring early. Meanwhile, their arts colleagues are advocating for salary enhancements, as others are earning 1 million. Meanwhile, their colleagues in science world are said to be earning 4 million. And how is that gap also really contributing? Because humanities have also been left out, and the scientists who are being also enhanced salaries are leaving early. So what does that also speak out? And that means government must therefore also come out and clearly address the gaps when it comes to also really those facilities and also those differences in salaries in there. And that's why we're going to be leaving the discussion aside. Uganda prisons empower inmates through furniture craftsmanship is another story that we are seeing this morning, where the Uganda prisons is empowering its inmates also really with furniture. Now the Uganda Prison Service has proudly furnished Makerere University's newly established Ivory Tower main bedroom also with high quality furniture crafted by inmate artisans, and that is one story we're seeing also in the, and that's where today we expect those people to come out with the skills, and that will also enable them also to earn money for themselves. Now the collaboration underscores Bubu, which is by Uganda, Build Uganda initiative, and which also the campaign aims at empowering local entities, and that is where we see Makerere University also already now giving its furniture role to Uganda Prison Authority to also do that, and now inmates are said to have done a tremendous job when it comes to also making furniture for the university's ivory tower. In now Makerere's vision aligns with Uganda's prison service rehabilitation mission, and Baine, the Frank, the top boss, that's solely of the prison spokesperson, so he said that, says that solely the partnership embodies Uganda's drive, that is to self-sufficiency and skills development. That is according to Frank Baine, who is also one of those bosses also at Uganda prisons in there. But we are still following up on, and I really want to say the work indeed which the prison officers and also the inmates did is actually quite well. And we must therefore solely acknowledge the efforts of all those inmates who have done a tremendous job when it comes to solely supplying furniture for the university in there. And that's where we're going to be leaving that discussion aside and still looking at some of the stories happening elsewhere. We're able to solely see a number of stories happening, and I really want to say all that is also happening in the country, and we are here to keep you informed, and we are still here to keep you in the know of what is happening. And earlier on we were talking about the story where the death toll from Chigogwa incident has also risen, and I was able to also talk to you about stories of where two MPs of the same district but different constituencies are clashed in there, and I really want to say all those stories, we are actually there in there, and I really also want to continue with that. Now, moving on with the stories, Lukwago demands Speaker Among to apologize to Buganda over coffee remarks. Is another story we're seeing this morning, where the Kampala Lord Mayor, that's Erias Lukwago, has called on the Speaker of Parliament, that's right, Honorable Anita Among, to issue an apology also to Buganda Kingdom over an audio clip circulating on social media, and that's where the audio allegedly captures Speaker Among also really commenting on defeating Buganda in relation to the contentious coffee amendment bill, and speaking also to the media. Lukwago emphasized the importance of supporting initiatives like Emwaniterimba, which is a Buganda slogan which says that coffee does not lie. So I think that's also which promotes coffee production in Buganda, and condemned also any attempts to interfere with also the enterprise in there. And that's where we did see Lukwago also saying that we condemn the circulating audio purportedly showing Speaker Among obstructing the voting process of the coffee amendment bill, and we demand an apology. That's from the Speaker of Parliament, that's right, Honorable Anita Among in there. That's according to information and according to the demand issued by, that is the Lord Mayor, Erias Lukwago. And the event also really served as an official ceremony for Buganda Kingdom also to present newly appointed chiefs, that is to chair on the region in there. Haji Magandazi Matovu was introduced as the new chief with Ronald Bukulu, and David Fiona Kalinda appointed as her deputies, and that is one thing that we did see happening. Now, second deputy speaker of Buganda Luchiko, that's Ahmed Lwasa, officiated the occasion also on behalf of Buganda Kingdom, that's Premier Charles Peter Maiga, who was also available in. And now the newly appointed chiefs took oaths, pledging to work also with Buganda Kingdom officials to preserve and promote Buganda's heritage. Among the officials already attending the event at the channel headquarters in Kasangati, Wakiso District, we are Lord Mayor Erias Lukwago, Wakiso District Woman MP, that's Betty Ethol Naulima, and other local government and Buganda Kingdom leaders. And the leaders voiced the opposition to the government, and the recent directive also to also integrate the Uganda Coffee Development Authority into the Ministry of Agriculture, stripping it also of its autonomy. And now the coffee production is integral. That's Buganda's also the identity, and has significantly boosted household incomes among the Kabaka's subjects. And now the new Kabaka chief, that's Haji Magandazi, expressed gratitude. That's Kabaka Ronald Muwenda Mutebi, for the opportunity to serve, pledging to also promote interest of the Buganda Kingdom also in Chalondo and beyond in there. And if today when you talk about the interest of the Buganda Kingdom, you will realize that indeed these people also have a lot more that also they want to work towards, and that's where the Buganda people are being brought together by the people also really, most of the leaders, and it's actually so the late Agnes Nachibirige Semper, and joins also a lineage of Chalondo chiefs dating back also to Kamia Lugomvu, Tofiri Male Okware, and Patrick Luaga Magumbule, who have also been in there. Now, additional leaders appointed to various roles include Lubega Amina, who is appointed for agriculture and tourism. We do have Chimbo Days Wanyana for unity. We have Zaitun Yahya for culture and norms, Chimbugwe Agnes for women's affairs, Mutu Thomas for youth, Kawaya Hamidu, that's for trade, Sengendo David Enoch for lands and housing, and Jafar Sengada for projects and development. And all these are now chiefs who have been appointed, and they will be serving the propaganda upon appointment solely by the king in there. And that is one area which we feel must also be known in there. And we want to also leave that with us aside. And we hope these people therefore also learn from those experiences, and they will be serving the propaganda with integrity and also with a lot of love in there. Now, leaving that aside, summarizing the discussion of what's happening internationally, Uganda, Serbia signed pact to revive the 1963 agreement to boost economic ties. Is a story that I want to say that this brings actually hope for these two countries, that's of Uganda and Serbia, to also really boost economic also transformation. Now, Uganda has signed an agreement with Serbia to allow Ugandan products to enter into the Serbian market and Balkan markets. And this is according to information we did receive from the State Minister for Trade, that is General Wilson Badi, and Tomislav Momirovic, Serbia's Minister for Internal and Foreign Affairs, Trade. And the agreement on behalf of Uganda and Serbia respectively signed by these two leaders, and during also in a ceremony that took place in Nice City. And we hope also that this also will be bringing hope. That's for international trade. And today when we talk about international trade, our products could be finding maybe its market. It's also really way into Serbia. And if you move to most of the local governments, where many people are going to be producing food in surplus, for instance, the matoke and cassava, which have been highly planted by the locals, and that would also, at the end of the day, improve on the livelihoods. And now during the event, both countries also really signed the bilateral air services agreement to enhance that is also connectivity and trade between the two countries and African destinations. And that's where we did see to Musime Agre, the senior airport transport officer in charge of regulation, also represented the trade minister. Meanwhile, Ms. Mirinjana Srimov, director of General Civil Aviation Directorate, represented also the Serbia during the signing. And that's one area which we feel is really quite important. And at the end of the day, we would also want to see how people can also be able to also export their surplus products from Uganda to Serbia. For instance, the matoke, the cassava, the avocados, the tomatoes should also be finding itself into Serbia, and that would also, at the end of the day, enable us to also get the necessary market also for those goods. And that's also where we would also want to see our countries developing, and that's where we are going to be leaving a discussion aside. And we hope also that that brings also the kind of hope for those who are also engaged in that trade. And at the end of the day, we would also want to see market for these goods, and that would at the end of the day also improve on foreign exchange. Leaving that aside, Gaza aid fears as Israel bans UN's Palestinian Refugee Agency. The war in Palestine is still going on, and how do we also maybe find answers and alternatives to that? I really want to say our prayers is really quite important. Now, Israel's parliament has voted to pass legislation banning the UN's Palestinian Refugee Agency from operating also within Israel and Israel-occupied East Jerusalem within 3 months also period in the now. Also, the contract also between UNRWA employees and Israeli also officials will also be banned, severely also limiting also the agency ability to operate in Gaza and Israel-occupied West Bank. Now, cooperation between the Israel military, which also really controls all crossing into Gaza, is essential also for UNRWA also to also transfer aid into the war-torn also territory. It is the main also UN organization working on the ground. There also really, according to information we are receiving from there. But now, how do we see the war between Israel and Palestine end? Because that is where we're still talking about Gaza. Today when we talk about Gaza, many people are expressing worry. It actually brings fear, because when you talk about Gaza, what comes to our mind is the bomb blasts and also those also attacks in there. Because recently I do understand that also Palestine was able to solely bomb Israel in there. And Israel sometimes back we were able to see them throwing bombs on Gaza in there. But how do we see this war end? And how can we also ensure that this war does not continue in there? And that's also one thing that we are going following up on. Meanwhile, in China, the Chinese police also target Halloween revelers in Shanghai, according to information we are receiving. And we also being told that the heavy police response has stifled that Halloween celebration at Shanghai. in what many have viewed as an attempt by authorities to crack down also on large public gatherings and freedom of expression. And whereas we were able to sort of see BBC also, they saw police dispersing crowds of costumed revelers also on the streets of Shanghai, while photos of apparent also arrests have been spread on social media. It means the freedom of expression in that engagement is not also being also allowed to also be exercised in there. But now how do we allow that happen? Authorities have also yet to confirm whether there has also been no official notice prohibiting Halloween celebrations. And that's according to information we are receiving from China. And the Halloween celebration is actually one of those areas, one of those activities that brings together revelers where they also express their issues. It could be in terms of democracy, it could be because of the injustices. People also are brought together, but now this year we have also not seen that not also being allowed to happen, where there's been a heavy deployment of police in that area where this has also been taking place. And how do you allow that to happen? Now rumors also of a crackdown have been circulating in the recent days, as earlier this month so some business owners who run coffee shops, bookshops and bars in Shanghai received government notices discouraging Halloween events. That is according to information we also receiving from the BBC. Now around at the same time, messages from what appeared from the government crackdown also has been also circulating. But how do we allow this happen? And why don't we allow this happen to also go on in there is what really matters also in there. But how do we see that happening? It's really what we also need to also move on, and also as we move on with the discussion, as we are just counting down about 8 minutes to get out of the studios, you know, there's really indeed a lot more that we also need to also look out, and that is where we shall be in position to really see that happening. And with that, we will need to also want to continue with the show. In these 8 minutes, we are going to be giving you what's happening in the world of sports, and that is where we shall be summarizing our discussions. And thereafter, we shall be having the AL as a news bulletin with Fete Manuel and Masi Daru. The team is already here. And we shall be having the Northern Request Hour with Olivia, UG, and DJ Jero, who will be here from also some certain time. And the Lembangia as well shall be coming through. And the Street Talk, of course, with MC Sarge, will not be also missing out. And all that is to make sure that you are catered across in all aspects of life. And that's where we are going to be seeing also that happening. But to summarize the discussion, what's happening in the world of sports, I really want to show you that most games are going to be happening towards also the end of this month, where we shall be seeing also the 4 big leagues still returning, and that's on the 31st, where we shall be seeing Paida Black Angels taking on Tunga Saze. Kawa Karunji will be taking on, that's Black's Power. We shall be having Buimba taking on Maida. Calvary will be taking on Tunga Saze also in the coming days. And all that also is in the world of sports. And remember, sports is actually one of those activities that today is not just for leisure. It is actually business. It is where we are seeing now people being employed as agents. We are seeing people being employed as footballers. They're actually earning money for themselves. And that is where we are going to be seeing that happening. And today in the Southern Uganda Premier League, which is already our league that also is raising our flag so high, which is the biggest and the top tier of Uganda football, we shall be seeing a game that's between Mbarara City and Vipers Sports Club, where the people of Mbarara will be hosting Vipers also today in there. Meanwhile, tomorrow, we shall be seeing Police hosting Mbale Heroes, another stubborn side in there, and all that also will be coming through. And today, I want to show you that also the leagues are actually getting interesting. And when we talk about the Southern Uganda Premier League, it is actually getting higher intensely, where the teams also do not want to lose the games, where other small teams are also struggling to pick wins against the big sides. But some of the teams are also surprising us. More so, Neck Football Club is also surprising many people in there. And today, if you look at the table standings, you will notice the table standings already are very much high, right from the big league, where we are seeing competition also is stiff, and all that will be coming through on the wish time with Owen Ezaga and Linda Suzu, who will be letting you know of what's happening in the world of sports, compressively and in detailed format in there. But all in all, we are still continuing with the show, and I really want to show you, even at the top level, that's of the English Premier League, we are still seeing also a lot also happening in there. But all in all, the discussions only will be coming through on the whistle time with Owen Ezaga and Linda Suzy. Last night we had one game that was in the La Liga between Mallorca and Atletico Club, which ended 0-0, and that is where we are still going to be following up to see how the world of sports will be progressing. And that brings us to the end of today's discussions. I really want to say thank you so much for you watched us right from the time we began until this hour of the morning. I'm really very much proud of you. I want to say thank you so much. Let's keep watching Western Television. Let's keep supporting home. At the end of the day, that is where we are going to be seeing our region enlightened, and we shall be in position to move away from the poverty bar we are known for into the money economy, to compete with the rest of the regions. Because today when you talk about Western sub-region, we are said to be just a bar and below Karamoja sub-region. But how do we move and also compete with those other regions is what really matters. And that is where, as Western Television, we want to enlighten you and also really pick at least the messages and also work with them, and that will enable you also improve on your livelihoods. With that, we come to the end of this discussions for today. My name is Parish Majid, and I want to express a special offer and a special thanks to the production team that is led by Boniface and also the rest of the team. Sophie, I don't want to forget you, Paul. I want to say thank you so much for always being there and also ensuring that the TV is also really live to the viewer who is also really watching us. And to you, the viewer, we are very, very much proud of you, and we cannot also thank you enough for always watching us. Let's continue watching us as other programs still shall be following this morning. I'm out. Until tomorrow, have a good day.